Topic 1.1 in Measurements in Physics is an introduction to the importance of communication in science as it relates to measurements. There are specific rules and standards that all scientists follow in order to maintain consistency in the communication of information. This goes across countries, cultures, and languages. System International de Units, or better known in the United States as SI units, is that agreed upon system of base units that scientists use to carry out their measurements. We often refer to this as the metric system in the United States. Below is a wheel that shows some of the units of the SI unit system. Each of the abbreviations shown in the wheel are base measurements of specific quantities like mass, length, time, current, temperature, amount of a substance, and luminous intensity. These abbreviations stand for the measurements in the SI unit system. There are many different ways of measuring these different quantities. For example, in the United States, we commonly use feet and inches to measure length. The purpose of the SI units is to make sure that there is only one common way that all scientists communicate information. In fact, there are only 3 countries that officially do not use the SI unit system, and those are Liberia, Myanmar, and importantly, the United States. This does not mean that scientists in these countries do not abide by SI units, it just means that officially these units have not been adopted by these countries. That is why you will see things like miles per hour on a speedometer in an American car, but kilometers per hour on speedometers in almost every other country. Scientists in the United States do, however, use SI units because it fosters collaboration between countries and is an agreed upon method used internationally. Now that we know the importance of SI units, we must first discuss the fundamental measurements and the units in the metric system. Fundamental units are base measurements of quantities in our universe. For example, all matter has mass and takes up space, so mass is a fundamental quantity, and while in the United States we might think of using pounds to measure the mass of something, SI units use kilograms. Space is also occupied by matter, and thus length must also be a fundamental quantity that is measured in our universe. So according to the SI units, we must use meters to measure length. Time, temperature, and electric current are also common quantities we encounter, and scientists must be familiar with those quantities and how to measure them. Part of the development of the SI unit system required the agreement of scientists on exactly what these measurements actually are, which required scientists to base these measurements on non-changing standards. For example, a meter is the length of 1/10,000,000th the shortest distance from the North Pole to the equator passing through Paris. Because that distance from the North Pole to the equator does not really change, it allowed there to be a standard length of agreement on the length of what a meter actually is. However, to help scientists make more practical measuring tools like a meter stick, physical objects were constructed to define each of the measurements. For example, the meter stick was constructed from a bar of platinum that is exactly 1/10,000,000th the shortest distance from the North Pole to the equator passing through Paris. And then that bar is used to check the accuracy and precision of all other tools used for length measurements. This was also done with many other fundamental measurements like the kilogram, which is the mass of 1 liter of water, and a single candela, which measures luminosity, is the luminous intensity of a standard wax candle. This reliance on physical objects and phenomena as a base for the SI unit system, however, has left scientists seeking more reliable bases. Because materials physically break down over time, scientists are transitioning away from using physical objects to define the SI units. There's currently a transition happening on how to better define these base quantities. In this chart, we see that each of the quantities is now defined by universal constants, which are quantities that do not change and are not subject to physical degradation. For example, a single second is equivalent to the time that elapses during 9,192,631,770 cycles of the radiation produced by the transition between 2 levels of the cesium-133 atom. Secondly, a meter has been changed to be defined by the speed of light and not a distance between the North Pole and the equator. Because these 2 examples are based on non-changing quantities measured in our universe, we can be more confident and precise in the measurements made. While the precision of these measurements are almost non-consequential to the types of experiments run in a classroom setting, Scientists at laboratories all over the world who specialize in the study of extremely small particles must have the most precise measurements to aid in their research. Defining these new SI units allows us to be more precise and accurate in those types of measurements. The previous measurements we explored were all fundamental measurements, but those measurements are not the only quantities that we use in physics and other science disciplines. Derived SI units are measurements of our universe that are a combination of fundamental SI units. For example, measuring the speed of an object requires a measurement of length in meters and time in seconds. Those are two fundamental measurements that, when combined, tells a person the rate at which a changing distance traveled over a known amount of time. This result being the speed of the object. There are many more derived measurements, but only the important first ones are listed here. The ability to read, write, and mathematically manipulate numbers in scientific notation is another part of the language of science. Because science, and specifically physics, can deal with quantities that are extremely large, like the size of the universe, and extremely small, like subatomic particles, it is important to have a method to write those numbers in a short and uniform manner. The way we express these numbers is in the following format. A is always a number between 1 and 10. Then we multiply that number by 10 to the n power, where n is any integer. We can show how to transform large and smaller numbers in just 4 steps. Step 1. Locate the decimal with any standard notation number. Step 2. Move the decimal to a location to create a number between 1 and less than 10. Step 3. Count how many places you move the decimal. Step 4. Rewrite the number into scientific form by writing the number, then multiplication sign, then 10, and lastly the number of spaces you moved the decimal as the exponent. Note, moving the decimal to the right creates a negative exponent. Moving the decimal to the left creates a positive exponent. Another important part of communicating within science is being able to use metric multipliers to show the scale of a measurement. Metric multipliers simplify scientific notation by using prefixes. Let's look at the example of the diameter of the observable universe. In scientific notation, the diameter is 8.8 times 10 to the 26 meter in length. To write this with a metric prefix, we can use a chart like the one on the right. On the chart, we can see that we have a metric prefix that can be used for a number to the 24th power. Unfortunately, our number is to the 26. We can still use this prefix, we just have to remember to move our decimal from 8.8 to the right 2 places so we can represent the number to the 24th power. Now we say that the diameter of the universe is 880 yada meters in length. Both of these are the same measurement, but it is often easier to communicate using metric multipliers. Let's look at another example. This time, the approximate size of an atom is 1.0 times 10 to the negative 10th meter. To replace this with its metric multiplier, we could use the closest value to the negative 10 in our chart, which is negative 9, and the prefix is nano. So when we write the approximate size of the atom with a metric multiplier, we get 0.1 nanometers. As we have seen, scientists use all sorts of numbers in our measurements, and a useful tool to help scientists understand the scale at which these measurements are being placed is to use something called the orders of magnitude. Orders of magnitude allow scientists to make relative comparisons of measurements. Take for instance the width of a hair. Is the width of a hair closer to the height of an average male human or the diameter of an atom? We can take a known measurement of these objects and compare which measurement is closest on orders of magnitude. The width of a human hair is on the order of micrometers, which is 10 to the negative 6 power. The height of an average human is on the order of meters, which is 10 to the 0 power. And lastly, the diameter of an atom, as we saw earlier, is on the order of nanometers, which is 10 to the negative 9th power. So when we think about these measurements, we should recognize that the width of a human hair is actually closer to the size of a single atom than it is the size of a human it came from. This tool of orders of magnitude also helps scientists in their estimations. While science is given credit for always being precise and in search of accurate measurements, estimating plays an important role in the work that scientists do. Estimation is a skill used by scientists to give an approximate prediction based on given information. This estimation is not meant to be necessarily a final answer, but rather a reasoned guess as to how close the answer should be. This ability is important because scientists do not always know the exact answer going into solving a problem, and therefore they need to at least have an approximate value that they think they are expecting, so when they do try to solve the problem, they know they are getting close or if they are solving the problem incorrectly.